Hey, it's Bunny. Today we are going to be painting a shaman's tent. This is part of a set that I've had for a little while, and we're going to have to paint this in stages. We are doing a base coat of umber brown. Now there's a lot of texture in here, so use a brush for your base coat that you don't mind wrecking, because it is difficult to get the paint in all the textured area. Okay, so use a brush you're not super attached to. And you don't have to be careful with your initial coat, so I'm not being super careful here because I don't need to be. And we're just painting. And remember, the entire point of this channel is painting it good enough for your own personal use, right? Because some people don't have the time or the skill and the desire to learn the skill to paint fantastic. And you don't need to be fantastic. You just need to be good enough to satisfy yourself. And yes, I'm going over the bone area with the brown as well. Just give myself a nice base coat. Remember that you should always start with a primed surface. You generally, with some very rare exceptions, there are some plastics that accept paint very well, but in general, you are going to want to start with a primer coat. Now, I like black primer with some very rare exceptions. So I know there have been some paintings that I've done, some works that I've done, people are saying, well, you should use a white primer for that. I don't love white primer, even when a light color's going on top of it. Okay, I just don't love the coverage. I know plenty of people do, and that's great for you. I love that for you, I really do. But I don't love white primer, and it's not something I use very often. I have some, and on the very rare occasion where I do need it, I will use it. But if I absolutely am worried about coverage, I'm generally not. Generally, I want some of the dark undercolors to show through. But if you're worried about coverage, and what you want to do is go with a coat of white first. But this is a very dark color, so covering white would have been annoying. It's better to go with the black. Turn that around a little bit. There we go. Get in there. Okay, we have to do the inside as well. But for now, we have to let that dry. Remember, always let your paint dry between coats. You do need to make sure that you are not messing up what you've already done. So we're going to let that sit and dry for a little bit. For you, it'll be pretty much instantaneous. For me, it's going to be a couple of hours. All right, time to paint the inside. And painting the inside is just like painting the outside. Okay, you just get a nice even coat on there. And you take your time if you want. I'm not going to take my time because it's just a base coat. But you want decent coverage, because what you will notice, and you'll see it, is that if you don't get at least half decent coverage, even with a color this dark, you're going to see it. Okay, you're going to see that you missed some spots. So take your time. Take your time. Get everything. Get right in those crevices, because there's lots of crevices in tents like this. And sometimes people ask, do I have to paint the inside? And the answer is really you should. Do you have to? Of course not. It's your piece. You can decide what to do. I'm not going to come to your house and knock on your door because you decided not to paint the inside of a tent. But if the tent has an opening, and this one does, right? This one, when it's sitting, you will see the inside of it. simply because the door is open, so there isn't a tarp or anything hanging in front of that door. So if you're going to see it, you want to give it at least a cursory paint job on the inside. Just because you'll be annoyed with yourself if you don't. Okay, you're going to be irritated. So don't irritate yourself. You think you won't be irritated. I promise you it's going to be annoying. So take the time, give it a little cursory paint job. Even if it's just 1 or 2 colors on the inside, it will make a difference. You will appreciate going to the extra effort to paint the inside. Okay, now we're just going to set that aside, let it dry, come back in a couple hours, and start adding a couple more colors. Go. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to paint kind of the canvasy parts. So these are kind of canvasy, so we're going to give these kind of a color. What colors you use, really, it doesn't matter, because, I mean, first of all, some of these are fantasy pieces. So if you're painting fantasy pieces, it really does not matter at all, right? So if you're painting fantasy pieces, don't worry about it. But also, you're only painting to make you happy, not someone else. So if all you're doing is painting for you, then all you need to do is be happy with what you've got. So I'm using kind of an ochre, yeah. This color's hard to describe because I custom mixed it. So it's a little bit of yellow, a little bit of brown, a tinge of slate gray, just to bring that color down a little further. But it's a fairly deep yellow, and you don't have to custom mix your colors. You can just use them out of the bottle. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Do you want to custom mix your colors? Then you should custom mix your colors. If you don't want to custom mix your colors, then you shouldn't. So we're going to have to do this particular color set, this particular color over a few passes, because we are not able to grab the piece in a way that allows exposure. And I'm not really caring about painting the poles, because the poles I'm going to paint a different color later. Right? We're basically just going over our dark, very dark brown base coat. And that just gives us a place to start. It just gives us a nice little place to start. Something to do here. Something to start with. So just remember to keep your fingers off the areas you've already painted, because there's nothing more annoying than being like, okay, I'm good, and then realizing your thumb went into your paint. So that's why we're not painting the inside and the outside at the same time. Okay? So then I'm going to paint the supports on the inside the same color. So these parts here. These parts you're really not going to see, but it's still nice to have that little pop of color. So I'm not going to worry about them too much, because when you're playing, always think about, if you're going to play with the piece, are you going to see it, right? Are you going to see it when you're playing? And the frank answer is often no. So sometimes you want that pop of color, but you don't want to worry too much. So just put a couple of pops of color in there, so if you do see it from certain angles, you won't be disappointed that there's nothing there. So it's not just a dark void. But at the same time, don't fuss too much, because we're really not going to see the inside of this. Right? So there are some things I'm going to paint on the inside. Some of the poles I'm going to paint, and I'm going to paint the rope, right? Hit that rope with a bone type color, like a ropey kind of color. But for the most part, I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. So I'm going to paint the other places that are hide, but I'm only going to get this lower edge, because anything else I'm going to end up touching. So I'm just getting this lower edge, right? Just this nice little lower edge. There we go. Give that a cute little paint. And then we're going to let that dry thoroughly, because you can see there's other pieces of hide that I want to get. But I don't want to touch that while it's drying. So there's clearly pieces of hide that I want to get up higher. You can see them now, right? And I'm not worried about full coverage, and the reason I'm not worried about full coverage is, in this particular case, I kind of want that darker brown to be shining through a little bit, right? Just a little. So I'm not worrying too much. Ignore the dogs. I'm not worrying too much about full coverage. We worry about that on other pieces. Until I have dogs, because occasionally a dog hair flies out of nowhere. And yes, I do have dogs. I have 3. I have 3 dogs and a litter of puppies right now. I don't want to give up my puppies. Okay, that's literally all I'm doing, because I don't want to wreck what we've already done. So, just going to rinse off my brush, and we will come back as soon as that is nice and dry. Okay, let's continue on. So we are just going to get these areas, and I'm not looking for full coverage. I'm looking for basically a light coverage, and then I'm going to go over this with a sepia wash. And the reason I'm going over it with a sepia wash is to darken it up, because this is actually too light, but you kind of work with too light on purpose, right? You kind of work that way on purpose. There we go. Because washes always darken things. And if you don't want it to look darkened, if you don't want it to look too dark, you start with a lighter color than you intend. Okay. Start with a lighter color than you intend, and you end up in a better position. Things look a little better. We're going to do this one as well. I don't want to use too many colors. If you use too many colors, everything starts to compete, and we don't want that. So because I don't want a lot of competition here, I am keeping it as neutral as possible, because we do have a couple more colors that we need to hit this with, and I don't want it to be lots and lots and lots of color. I just don't want that, right? Because too many colors, like this is a piece of scenery. So sometimes when you're painting, what you want is your scenery to kind of blend into the background, which is what I'm going to want here. Okay, I'm not going to want this scenery to stick out too much. So I actually want as few colors as possible and have it still look like it fits in with the rest of the scenery. So I'm just doing a few colors. So we'll have some bone to do. and some rope to do. But I'm just painting the hide this darkened yellow. There we go. And that is all of the hide. So now we're gonna let that dry for a couple of hours. Well, for me it'll be a couple hours. For you, it's just gonna be a second. Okay, now we're gonna move on. I'm gonna start with the inside and I'm gonna start painting this rope. And I'm just using a toasted marshmallow because it doesn't have to be that fancy, right? And I know it looks pale, but the whole point is that when we, I'll get some of these in there, but when we go over it with a wash, it ends up a little darker. We're going to go over it with a sepia wash, really. Okay. The ropes. I'm not too concerned about the inside. So I'm doing the ropes and then where it looks like bone. I'm not worried that much about the inside. You don't want to skip the inside because if you skip the inside, what ends up happening is it really looks like you just didn't do the inside. But if you do the inside at least a little bit, then it actually looks like you cared. Cared a little bit, right? And just did something there. So it doesn't have to be a ton of color on the inside. It just has to be something, right? So you don't have to do a ton and you don't have to be too fussy about it. Like with this rope right here, I don't really care. Like it's just there to be there, right? It's not really that big a deal. It's just you want to hit it so it looks like you actually did something to it. So don't leave insides completely blank when you can see in there at all. I mean, the reason you can see in there is because of the door, right? When it's sitting in your campaign, you'll kind of be able to see if somebody painted the inside or not. So just give it a cursory. Don't worry too much about the inside. Just kind of smack a little on there just so when it's sitting in your campaign, like I'm not being too careful here. I'm just kind of hitting the raised areas a little bit with the toasted marshmallow because it doesn't matter. You're hardly gonna see it, but you'll see it a little bit when it's sitting. And then I'm just gonna work near the entrance here. Because I don't want to do the whole thing because I'll come back with the same color when this is dry, and the reason for that is simply going to be that when you're doing things like this and you have to come back, if you don't come back and you try and do it in one pass, you're going to end up screwing up what you already did. So what I'm doing is just doing like the front here, the inside and the front, right? Just the inside and the front. Hit that with that toasted marshmallow, and later we come back with a sepia wash. And when we do that sepia wash, what I'm deciding right now is kind of like I need a brighter yellow as well. But do I want to do something like the ropes? Do I do them like a bright blue or something? That's what I'm deciding right now. Because, I don't know. It doesn't matter, really. It's just is that how I will like it moment. Right? It's not about other people. It's about, well, I like it that way. So, like, the ropes that are wound, what color do I want? And because they're not ropes, right? Like they're not ropes, so I won't. What I'm talking about is like right in here. What do I do with that? So I'm just kind of, deciding. It's kind of, what do I want to do with it? That's really the question. I don't do a lot of pre-planning. You can pre-plan your color palettes. I don't like to, because then it becomes a little more almost like paint by number, if I've already chosen. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to lay it down and get in here. But what I'm going to do is just let it dry, because if I don't let it dry, I'm not going to be able to work on the rope on the outside. So we're just going to leave it this way and let it dry. And then we'll come back and keep working. Little bits at a time. That's what you do. Little tiny bits at a time. Okay, that is dry. Now we're just going to hit the rope from this side. And I know the rope looks really bright. And again, this is a piece of scenery. So generally, I recommend, if you're doing scenery, decide how much you're actually going to use that scenery. Like, this is probably going to make an appearance in 1 or 2 campaigns. It's unlikely to be more than that. Okay? It's unlikely that we're going to see this particular piece more than once or twice in a campaign. Like, we're not going to use it often. So, because again, the point of this channel is quick and easy. Okay, eventually I'll do tutorials that are more in depth. Right now, we're focusing on quick and easy. Quick and easy means assess what you're going to use that for, right? Assess it. Figure out, am I even going to use this very often? And this piece, I'm not going to use often at all, to be honest. So I'll be happy with a quick and easy paint job. And remember that no paint job is perfect, right? Okay, so we literally have to let that dry before we get out another couple colors. So we're going to do that, then we will be back, and we will keep going. We're going to need a couple of colors in the next pass. Okay, I'm going to use gold here just because I can and I like gold. Not because I think gold is the perfect color to use here. It's because I want to. And sometimes I want to is good enough. So instead of using a different brown for these pillars, I'm using gold. And I know gold is not a realistic color to use for these. I know that. I don't care. I want gold. So I'm using gold. The benefit of painting your own stuff is you can do whatever you want. You can paint whatever you want. So I'm doing these pillars in gold because I can. But I'm not going for a full coverage because if I see some of the brown from underneath, it at least doesn't look like all I did was just go raw gold. Even though I am kind of just doing raw gold. It's kind of what I'm doing, isn't it? Just basically raw gold. Because I can. I like gold. Best thing about painting your own stuff is doing it however you want, with whatever color you want, and it doesn't matter what other people think. Again, this is the inside. I don't care about the inside, right? I don't care about the inside that much. I'm not going to spend very much time on the inside. It's just a thing to make sure that when you look in from, remember this sits face down like that. So when I look in, I just want to be able to see that there's some color in there and not just a black void. So as long as there's some basic color happening, it's fine. Okay. As long as there's just some basic, boom, here's some color, just so it doesn't look like I completely ignored the inside. You can completely ignore the inside if you want. Again, it's your thing, right? It's entirely up to you. If you want to do that, that's your call. Anymore. I switched to a smaller brush just because now this is on the outside where people are actually going to see it. So I still don't care. I don't care. I don't care that much. But I just switched to a smaller brush because it'll be a little more precise. You don't have to be that precise. Like, if you go over it, whatever, it's fine. My general thing is just don't worry about it. So I'm going to paint all of these just so they have a hint of gold. I don't need a ton of gold, just a hint. Like, they don't need a lot of it. I'm just going just a little bit of gold, right? That's all we're doing. So I'm just painting this section so I have somewhere to put my hands when I am handling it the other way. I'm just painting this area. I'm not going to go all the way around. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll go all the way around. Yeah. Sure, why not? Yeah, I debate with myself. And that's the only person you should be debating with. Because, remember, this is not a masterful paint job. And this is not even as good a job as I can do. I want this quick and easy. I want it over with. Not because I don't like the piece, but because it's scenery. This isn't a dragon or something. I'm just going to switch for a little bit of blue. Just because I'm actually going to paint this blue. I like it and I want it blue. Also, I have a hair on the end of my brush. There we go. I like this and I want it blue. So we're going to paint it blue. Boop. There we go. And I'm going to get that same brush back and I'm just going to take the gold. I'm just going to take the gold and do it in here. And I am going to take the blue, come back with the blue and go over that because there's a little bit sticking up. But until then, we're going to leave it the way it is. We are going to be happy about it and we will come back and do some more gold. I just want the inside to dry so I have somewhere to put my hands. Alright, that's dry. Let's keep going. So I am going to basically hit everything that kind of looks like wood. That's not one of the colors I've already used. So I'm just going to, I just want the sparkle. I just want the sparkle, guys. It's not, I know it's not the right color. I know that. But I just want the sparkle. Like, why shouldn't I have the sparkle if I want the sparkle? I want some sparkle. And then I'm going to use some silver on the very top. So we're just going to go here as well. Oh, my hands are shaking today. It's always fun when your hands are shaking. That's excellent. Yeah, that's fun times when your hands are shaking. It's okay. That's one of the reasons I don't really care. Like, when my hands are shaking, sometimes you're very off on your paint, and it's like you can either obsess over it or just decide, hey, Sometimes we're creative and it looks pretty, and it doesn't matter if you miss a little bit. I also want to get these little stitches. Why? Just because I want things to sparkle, just a hint. A little bit. Not a lot. Just a little bit. Because I think it'll be fun. And again, you can't really see the inside, except to know that the inside is painted. So you're doing insides of tents and stuff. Don't worry about it too much, because it's not crucial, right? It's not really that big a deal. When you do the insides, it doesn't matter. Ooh, really shaking today. That's always fun. And then I'm just going to paint these guys, and then I'm going to do silver for the arrowheads. I just want a little bit of glitter. I tend to use silver or gold on most of my things, only because I really like a little bit of sparkle. It doesn't have to be a lot of sparkle, but I like enough that it looks kind of nice. I like metallic. I don't use a lot, because I find if I use a lot, I get annoyed. Not because I care what other people think, I don't. But if I use too much sparkly, metallic colors, I find I don't like it as much. Okay. It's looking pretty good. A little more up here. Then we'll get the silver after. Okay. And then I'm just going to grab some blue. Grab some blue to do a couple of these little accents here. All right, we're going to let that dry. Come back, do a little silver. All right, now we're going to just take a little silver. This isn't going to take much. Tad of silver on these little arrowheads. That's all. Remember, paint for you. And I like how drab this looks with just a little bit of shimmer. Just a little. So when you're painting, make sure you like it, because who else do you have to impress? There we go. A little more silver in here. And we're going to let that dry. When we come back, we can start doing a wash. Okay, everything's dry. It's time to turn this guy upside down and get some wash on him. Again, the inside I am not that concerned with. I'm just not, because the inside, it doesn't really matter. You're hardly going to see it. So I just want to get some wash very basically, like on the rope and the bone, like where it's lighter colored. And then we'll let that dry and turn it over. Okay, so I just want to get on here, get in here. And you notice how on the bone, the wash almost immediately makes it look better, because before that, it just looks dull. So even on pieces you don't really care about, grab your wash and give it a quick brush, because it's simple, it's easy. Yeah, you can do highlighting, you can do very complicated processes. This is a really fast and easy way to give your work a little dimension. We'll be right back. All right, now we're going to apply the same idea, which just dulls everything down. And I've had people ask, why dull it? And the answer to that question is it's too bright. You start with brighter colors and then you dull them down using a darker wash, and it gives everything just a more realistic look, right? It just gives everything a nicer more weathered look. Like the bones immediately look more bone-like the second you hit them with this. And the rope looks less white. Even though we didn't use white, we used like a toasted marshmallow for the rope. But it's a quick and easy way. Now we still have one more step because I want to raise the color on the dark brown so it doesn't look so one-dimensional, and I'm going to do that with dry brushing. So we're going to be right back to dry brush. Well, for you it's right back. For me, it'll be a couple hours. Okay, what we're doing now is we are going to first pull that off, but I am going to do a little bit of dry brushing. When you're dry brushing, you want to knock off as much of the paint as you can, okay? And then I'm just going to hit these dark areas with some gold. Not a ton of gold, just enough that it's like, just to brighten it up a little bit. Remember, when you're knocking the paint off your brush, when you're doing that, if you think you have enough paint, you probably have too much. It's better to knock it off because you can always go over an area again. Like that area was too light and this area is too light, so I'm just going over it again, adding a little more gold. But for the most part, it's better to hit it with the gold or whatever color you're using, and then go back and hit it a second time if you feel like it needs more, because you can't take it off as easily. I mean, you can with a paper towel a little bit, but it's harder. So I'm just doing that. That just gives it a little bit of lift, right? And then we're gonna go on the inside and do that again, just to the dark areas, right? Just dry brush some of these darker areas just to raise it up a little bit, just a little bit. We don't need, again, the inside doesn't matter that much because you're not really seeing it. There we go. Let's let that dry and see how it turns out. And there we have it. Not perfect, but I like it. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as you're happy with the way it looks and we painted the inside, it doesn't matter. Anyway, that is our little shaman's tent. It is really only going to be used in a couple of campaigns, so I didn't really feel the need to spend too much time on it. That's about it for us today. I hope you'll be back with us next time. Bye!